The following program does not have a normal intro because I was really too busy smoothing other things over to get it done. So, Ori, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. So tonight's story that I'm bringing to you this evening is courtesy of someone who's been watching this show. I think like 2 years now, at least. Gentleman goes by the name of Stephen Cooper. I don't know if that's his real name, Stephen Cooper, or not. I've seen him in the chat here, YouTube, Stephen Cooper, and he, like several of you, who are regulars of the show, will offer suggestions of like, "Hey, why don't you check this out?" And I would probably say, like, when people give me suggestions, there's probably, being generous, like a 10% chance I'm going to use it, but I still appreciate them because if I'm not using it, it's like there's usually a reason I won't. If I'm not using it, either I feel like it's not appropriate, or uh, I don't know, it bores me. That definitely could be part of it if it bores me, or if it's like something that I feel like I'm going to cover in a different setting, or that I've already covered. And it boring me doesn't mean that it's not something that's not timely or important. It's just there's certain stories out there I'm like, eh, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. Give you a great example. Great example. There's a story that's going on in the news. The whole judgment that was issued against Rudy Giuliani. So that's something that's like right in my wheelhouse. There's law, there's politics, there's the whole thing going back to his election claims in Georgia and all that other stuff. Is that right in my wheelhouse? Yeah. Is it something that like I'm anxious to cover? No. No. And there is it boring? Mm, to me, like the Rudy Giuliani thing, it's almost like it's like, yeah, he's on our side. I just I don't like the way he does a lot of the stuff that he does, and I'm so disappointed in the way that he's turned out compared to what he was when he was mayor of my city when I was living in New York. That because I think he went from someone who was a strong leader and potential president at one point to someone who's fighting who's fighting. I'd like him to win on most of the battles that he chooses. So he's on my side. I just don't think that his approach is always sound. That's not to say that he's not sound. I just think that he chooses approach too often. Yeah, that's my critique. And I think that some of the stuff he does, I'm just like, that's just not the way to go about this. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for the interests, and it's not healthy for him politically, legally, financially. It's just I'll give you an example. When Rudy Giuliani was first facing issues with the New York State Bar, so I covered that. I covered the way they targeted him, and I was like, look, this is the response that he put in. I felt like, as an attorney, I was like, this is a poor way to handle a situation. Is he being targeted? Yes. Was he wronged? Yes. Is this terrible that they're coming after him? Is this an abuse of power? Yes. 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 I was critical of my own state bar. I was like, I think that this is such such transparent partisanship that it was gross and disturbing, and it bothered me. But I couldn't deny the fact that once he was facing that mounting pressure, he handled it like an idiot. Like some of the things he did was just stupid. It's like, why would you do this? Why would you do this? Like, you know that you can't do that, and you know that this is a violation of your duties as an attorney, or at least this is what they're claiming. And then you can't even come up with, like, what your evidence was when you made these claims. Like, you have to you have to be able to document yourself. You have to keep track of this stuff because you know that there's going to be a target on your back. You have to understand that you have to comport yourself in a way that, yeah, you know what? It's not fair that you should have to live under that scrutiny, but you know you're going to be facing it, and then you still take no steps to protect yourself from it. I'm like, you're acting stupidly. So I feel frustrated trying to defend what I think is like stupidity, but I'm frustrated because I'm like, I want you to win. But like, why are you doing this so stupidly? Just better ways to make the exact same point. I'll give you an example in this realm, right? He gets up in Georgia and he starts basically coming up with all these different numbers, very precise numbers, that there were 6,432 underage people who voted and 9,687 convicts and 7,000. I'm like, how do they get these precise numbers so fast? How do they get these? I mean, if you told me that there's over 6,000, I'd be like, okay, fine. But like 6,437. Did you miss the 6,438th guy? I was just like, how did I was so bothered when that was happening. Did I think that there was truth to it, that there was issues with it? I was like, doesn't shock me. Doesn't shock me. Doesn't shock me. Do I know that it's true? No. But even I was asking, wow, I wonder what the source is for that. Because when you have such a specific number, that sounds like you got a source. And then when you're questioned on that, to come back and say, oh, I can't give you a source for that. Well, then why are you coming up with such a freaking precise number? If there was some sort of formula that they had to say, hey, look, because we found that when we did this number study and we found that in this field of 2,000 people, we found 30 people who were like this, and we extrapolate that over the entire state of Georgia. So this is how we come up with this number. Okay, fine, but you still don't give a precise number. You come up with we estimate that there's somewhere between 5,700 and 7,200. This is where you have a ballpark there. You say, this is give or take, but like it's at least 5,000. You don't come up with a number like 6,387. That's not normal. So I'm like, do I agree with him that there's like definitely shady stuff happening all over the place? Yes. Do I want to be able to dig in? But I also want you to be able to come up with, okay, here's let's talk tachlis here. Let's talk facts. Let's get to reality here. Show us how show us the receipts. We all want the freaking receipts. We were screaming for the receipts since November 6th or whatever freaking date it was. We're all screaming for receipts. Sounds like you're coming with them. Anyway, I don't know. I'm rambling. So that's why, so now he's filed for bankruptcy. So Morgan, one of the people very helpful as far as helping me put together, suggested to me, hey, you might want to cover this, that he's filed for bankruptcy. And I was like, I didn't even cover this story at all leading up to his bankruptcy. But yeah, he's filing for bankruptcy. Am I happy he's filing bankruptcy? No. Is it financially sound for him to file bankruptcy? Yeah. Am I going to read a whole story on him filing for bankruptcy? It's depressing. I'm not shocked that it happened based on what he did. It's like, that's why I'm like, what do I do with this story? I don't like this story. It makes me very uncomfortable. Everything about this story makes me very uncomfortable because I'm not happy with the results, and I can't argue with it. So it's like I feel like I'm like walking down like this road of like just like gross memories, and it's like I'm looking through like my storehouse and going through the boxes that are labeled on them. They're labeled on them regret. Like this is what you think I want to do? Who the heck wants to go into their closet and open up a box labeled regrets? Like, why keep that? Why do I want that around me? It's like, no. Oh my gosh, no. Keep all away from me. Life of regrets. Yes, got a warehouse filled with boxes called regrets. Like, throw them out. Just throw it out. I don't know. It's just not consistent with who I am as a person to keep boxes of regrets. B-Man says, okay, son, argument for me. I bet a friend of mine that Trump's second impeachment was moot because he was ready out of office. Impeachment is to remove from office. Yeah, this is such a double-edged sword. You think I don't see? I see the double-edged sword here. I see it. I see it. It's a double-edged sword. I don't know. They call him impeached. The House impeachment was before January 20th, so he's still technically in office. There were all sorts of procedural issues, which raised all sorts of flags. By the time it got to the Senate, and they had a chance to have a hearing, he was out of office. And the hearing, which to me, the way they handle their impeachment hearings in general, if you ask me how they handled the first impeachment hearing, I'm like, this is so ridiculous. This is so beyond the pale of stupid type of court proceeding where everyone who's presenting evidence is the prosecutor themselves. It's such a weird thing, the way they do that in the Senate, the way they do everything, that the House members come and they present the evidence, but nobody's under oath. Nobody swears to anything. So it's like they just really walk up here and they're like, this is the skull of the dead baby that Trump killed. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, and here's another picture of here's another skull of an albino baby who he killed. The first one here was an Indian baby that he killed. This one's an albino baby. Really? Wow, I can't believe all these skulls that he crushed. What's your evidence? Here's a video of a cartoon reenactment of what it looked like on that phone call with Zelensky. Here's our evidence. This is our evidence. Stuff that would never fly in it wouldn't work in traffic court. The stuff that they were presenting there as evidence. And then they finish up with their closing argument saying, and so, the evidence is beyond dispute. And it's like, and I'm left saying, what? There's literally not one thing was evidence because it has to be under oath. Somebody's swearing that this is true. This is an actual representation of what I'm claiming it is. Rather than Jamie Raskin sitting in on his little thing there, drawing up. Oh, okay, fine. You know what? It's like, okay, fine. Here we go. I can give you. This is. Here we go. I can show you lots of different evidence that's on a par with what they're showing at these stupid impeachment trials. There you go. I don't want you to feel deprived. You should get your evidence also. Here's evidence of me in front of a map of Colorado. That's exactly accurate. Exactly accurate. Here's a picture of me and Trump in front of the 1952 Supreme Court. You can tell because it's black and white. So there you go. So you see, there were 4 women on the Supreme Court in 1952. This is how evidence is presented in a Senate impeachment. It's stupid. That was in the first impeachment. Second impeachment was worse. I got lots of evidence for you. There you go. What's that? How'd this go there? So, yeah, this over here, this is evidence that Jack Smith has not had a haircut in the last 9 months. Look at the hair. He hasn't had a haircut in 9 months. There's your evidence. Can you believe it? So stupid. Here's evidence that I'm friends with Thomas Jefferson. This is an impeachment level evidence. I'm friends with Thomas Jefferson. You can even see here we are posing for a picture together. This is what impeachment level evidence is in the Senate. So when you say was an impeachment, I think that our standards for what is an impeachment, the bar has dropped very, 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 very low. But I will tell you this: if you're looking to say it wasn't an impeachment, you can say it was after he was out of office. You can say that Chief Justice Roberts didn't preside over it, and that's part of the requirements. You can say that they didn't have that the House is obligated based on what the House itself had said 10 months earlier, that they have to have a vote in front of the House as to have an inquiry first. They didn't have the inquiry, so that their failure to do that in round 2, bigger, stupider, and lessier evidence was even worse. All of a sudden they didn't need to have the House vote. So whatever. Stephen Cooper, my boy, saying that you're welcome. Happy to help. It was a big help. Looks like you're gonna go into the Capitol. I am. I'm going into the Capitol. Yeah. This is evidence that I've appeared in front of Congress. Sometimes I amuse the hell out of myself. Okay. Where was I? Yeah, I think it's time for us to start a movie. So a lot of you might not realize this, but Colorado was not always the crazy state of woke that it is today. No, my friends. It was not always that. And if you're like me, if you're here, you probably have a similar curiosity level that I have, where I'm like, seriously, how does this crap happen? Like what is happening on a sociological level? Like literally, like how is the sausage being made? I look at a state like Georgia and I say to myself, this is in the deep freaking South. And I don't understand how any election there is close. And why is that happening in Georgia and it's not happening in South Carolina, and it's not happening in Alabama, Mississippi, it's not happening any of the other states there, but this one state, all of a sudden, and I understand they have a big city, Atlanta, okay, fine. But one state, it's like this one state. And we saw in the Midwest also. The Midwest was always reliably red. And all of a sudden, just start getting purpler and purpler and purpler. We see the same thing in Virginia. And I'm like, okay, there could be migration of people, attitudes, whatever. It's not like we've seen raving success from blue. We haven't. You haven't seen that at all. It's not like Obama was like this boom of anything good happening in America. A lot of bad stuff has been happening everywhere that Democrats have gone. And they sound crazier and crazier. I mean, like, just crazier and crazier. Why would there be more and more people being like, oh yeah, we have to vote blue. We have to vote blue. It's just astonishing to me. I'm like, there's got to be something that's happening here. There's got to be something that's happening. And Stephen Cooper turned me toward this movie, which has a very detailed explanation as to how it happened in Colorado. And this is a lot of information in here in this movie that I had zero clue about. I didn't know anything about it. And I'm like, if this is what's happening in Colorado, maybe this is what's happening in Georgia. Maybe this is what we're seeing in Virginia. Maybe this is how Michigan, which used to be, something, is now crazy blue. And then after we see this, we can start asking ourselves, what, if anything, can we do about this? So glad you're here, feeling better. We missed you. Your laugh on you, so thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you. Great amicus brief for Trump to SCOTUS. Yeah, I read it yesterday. Where were you? Georgia has the biotech triangle, which draws in a lot of moneyed big tech, big people. State Chamber of Commerce incentivized it and turned itself blue. That's what we're going to see, how money is a big factor in this. Let's get started. Here. So this is courtesy of not Bitch. I don't know what this is. Who's this from? BitChute? Yeah, Rocky Mountain Heist. It's called Rocky Mountain Heist, full documentary from 2014. So it's not really new, but I never heard of this before. So I'm bringing it to you now.
This is the story of 3 multimillionaires and a billionaire.
The Republican Party is controlled by a bunch of bigots,
pushing a top-down, vindictive against...
That's fast. Sorry. I forgot. You see, I put my ears on speed dial. So to me, it makes sense. But to most of you, it probably won't. We're going to do this at 1 1/4. Can I get some closed caption? You got no closed caption for me? We're going to try this at 1 1/4.
bigots are getting learned is if we take their power away from them.
Many of these people are
Bigots are getting learned bigots.
Pushing millionaires and a billionaire.
The Republican Party is controlled by a bunch of bigots.
Pushing a top-down, vindictive agenda.
The only way the bigots are getting learned is if we take their power away from them.
Many of these people are multi-billionaires. If they can utilize our money to basically accomplish their social agenda, that's a great thing for them.
A cake shop owner in Colorado now facing jail time after he refused to bake a cake for a same-sex wedding.
This is how a tiny club of secretive elites assumed control over a state of 5 million people.
By the way, I mean, they're making it like this is like some sort of like, you know, I don't think there's anything. I don't think this is investigative. I think this is stuff that's known. In other words, this is not like an expose of like, I think it's just putting stuff together that's fairly well known, at least to, you know, many Coloradoans. Is that what it is? Coloradoans? I don't know. I'll call them that.
They made new rules. They changed the rules, and then they exploited those rules. There's a war going on.
They declared open season on conservatives, Republicans, anyone who didn't agree with their radical far-left agenda.
They want to tell me what doctor I can go to, what health plan I can have. That is the war on women.
They have passed legislation that has been anti-gun, anti-family, anti...
All right. See, Tam is one of those people who contributes to my show. So even though she's just asking it like that, I'm going to just share. This is Rocky Mountain Heist. It's a movie night. And it's explaining how Colorado got flipped from being relatively red. It wasn't like deep red, but relatively red into being full woke. Never go full woke. I was very proud of my poll. Very proud of my poll. I'm often very proud of my poll. It's true. It's true. I have a lot to be proud of with respect to my poll. I'm going to show it to you. That's how proud I am of my poll. You can all take a good look at it. Here it is. How a red state went full woke. Never go full woke. What do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people? A nutless monkey can do your job. Oh my gosh. One of the greats of all time. One of the greats of all time. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Show this. It's actually people in the ghetto who want my attention. Snorkel Boob saying, I didn't watch the Colorado trial. How can one say Trump received due process when he wasn't even the defendant of the trial? I don't get the mechanics of him not the defendant but on trial. Yeah, that's a good question. Now they did allow him to interplead. So they throughout the trial they treated him kind of like he was the primary defendant. So, which was the proper way to handle it. But I spent a lot of time on Locals this afternoon. I highly recommend it. Where I walked through the dissent of Samour. I guess that's how it's pronounced. His last name is Samour. I had started going through that the other night when I spent hours and hours going through that decision. And I really lost strength in the middle of going through his dissent, probably like 30% in. So today I went on Locals and I did a full-blown deep dive, really breaking apart what Samour was saying. And oh my God, he destroys the majority, destroys them as to how this is just this is just such a stupidly partisan decision. And he's a Democrat. So. Breck Nichols says, new word, purpler. Let's make it go viral like we did with Fetch. Look, Fetch not happening. That's the one thing I know. That's the one thing I learned from Emily Baker. So Fetch ain't happening. Stop trying to make Fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Energy development.
The Colorado state flag is still flying high here in Fort Lupton, at least for now.
Being a survivor of rape, what would have been different if I had been carrying the weapon I was licensed to carry that night?
That's why we have the whistles.
I just want to say that actually statistics are not on your side, even if you had a gun.
They are fundamental.
This is like with the stuff that they believe is so stupid. It's so stupid. They believe some of the stupidest things in the world.
Changing our culture here in Colorado.
This hill is a communion. It's a communion of people who like to smoke weed, have a good time.
We need to legalize.
I think what part of what it is they make people miserable and then basically offer them like, we're going to help you out of your misery. That's essentially what I'm seeing from Democrats. We're going to make you miserable, and then we're going to be the party that's going to help you out of your misery. I think that they saw like, hey, with the black community, like we're able to like basically destroy their wealth and prison most of them, and then basically tell them how, hey, we're here to help you, and how effective that was. So now they're basically trying to do that to all society. We're going to make you as miserable as possible, and then we're going to try and help you. But that's not really what the focus of this movie is.
Marijuana at Nashville.
Yeah. So, for example, with some weed, you're miserable, so we're going to give you weed. Now you're going to love us because we're the ones giving you the weed. Why do you need the weed? Well, because you're trying to escape. Why are you trying to escape? Because we made you miserable. Everything about the psychiatric community is like we're going to basically enable you not to get better, but to just fall deeper into your psychosis, whatever the psychosis is. Take more drugs just to deal with the pain rather than fighting through it. And I'm not saying that everything can be fought through. That's how they'll try to gaslight and twist my words. My point is that like it's like there's no such thing as curing. It's a matter of how do we handle living with this. And so it is with everything related to anything remotely sexual. Whatever it is, there's no such thing as trying to like actually redefine what healthy is so that anything is healthy. And we're going to try to emasculate people because that's what good people do is we label anything we don't like toxic masculinity, and basically that's just going to make both men and women miserable. And then when you're miserable, we're here to help you, give you guidance as to like what's good for you, and like sheep, just fall for it. Sad. It's really sad. Here I am. I'm sounding the alarm. Ding 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 ding. Do my best. I do my part. All I can urge you to do is share. Like, share, subscribe. Doesn't matter whether you're Rumble, whether you're on YouTube, wherever you are. You could be watching me on Twitter, which would be a real feat because I don't stream to Twitter. I'd be very impressed if you were doing that. I was actually trying to figure out today how people do that because I see people like Robert Gouveia does that, and I'm like, how do they do that? I don't even know how. If I wanted to do that, I don't know how I would do it. Apparently, it's not that hard.
I self-medicate. I ain't got on a plan yet, but so I self-medicate.
And that gives them the illusion of happiness because why is the illusion of happiness? Because it gives them ephemeral non-misery. This is the new thing. Like this is not new, but this is like this is what is considered healthy is ephemeral as in temporary non-misery. Constantly temporary non-misery that has to be fed more and more.
I love myself and I love everybody.
It started with a plan to control the state legislature and helped pave the way to the White House.
Well, I tell you what, we win Colorado, I'll get 4 more years.
Allegedly.
We win Colorado, I'll get 4 more years. We win Colorado, I'll get 4 more years. But
preside over a sanctuary city.
We can't do deportations.
It's a story of arrogant elitism.
That was have some of the same, backwards thinking in the kind of rural western areas.
The Educate the Idiots campaign. Really insulting stuff.
No response tonight from former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg about his controversial remarks about Colorado.
And it's the story of where they're going next.
Cleansing a sickness from our souls doesn't come easily. It's gruesome.
I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? Who is this person? Where'd they get the kind of money?
If they can do it in Texas, Republicans are doomed.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. In what way? Positive. And I mean this to any of you, the handful of lefties who like to pop in here, whether it's Hugh Jerrickson or whomever you are out there that loves to pop in here. Tell me one way positive that Obama fundamentally changed America. One positive fundamental change. I can give you a ton of negatives, like disastrous. That pretty much I hold him 82% responsible. And yes, I'm cognizant of the fact that I didn't say 80 and I didn't say 85. And I came up with what's like a Giuliani-esque type of very specific 82. 82% responsible for everything, all the disasters that they were dealing with today. All of them. From immigration to the race riots to the economy to the hatred and venom that we feel in this country. All of it. Some of it he's 97% responsible for. Others he's like 82%.
It all started here in Colorado. And the Colorado model, as it has become known, could be coming to your state next. I'm Michelle Malkin, and this is the story of the Rocky Mountain Heist.
I'm going to ask you, because in this picture, Colorado looks like a perfect rectangle. And I was very bothered. I didn't toy with this. Well, don't worry. I'm not going to spend very long on this little tangent here. But I was very bothered that, like, if you look at this map of, this is not a perfect, that's not a perfect rectangle. And I saw a few maps that look like this. And I'm like, is it a perfect rectangle or not? I don't get it. Why it is that, like, I always thought it was a perfect rectangle, but this is not a perfect rectangle. This is a trapezoid. This is a wider base than it is. It trapezoid? Is that the word I'm looking for? Could be. This is a wider base. If any of you can explain why it is that there's so many maps of Colorado that look like this, you can even see like this line on the side. It's just sort of like, definitely this part is closer to the edge of the border than this part. Not even close. I don't get it. When I turn it upside down, it's very clear. That's not a rectangle. And I did not play with this. I didn't do anything to this to alter it. This is not the only map I saw that looked like that. So I'm curious if you can give me an answer. If any of you have an answer to why it is that so many of those maps look like that, I'd be very curious. What's the Shah? People stop being allowed to say blacks never reach the top. Yeah, so now they have to make everyone miserable. Pam! Pam, 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 Pam. The PowerPoint was awesome. Oh, thank you so much, Pam. Looking forward and to the spreadsheet. There's no spreadsheet. No shame to the locals, but I was great. But it was great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's very thoughtful of you.
Pleasant start to our Saturday morning is going to give way to a pleasant afternoon for us around southern Colorado. Temperatures will be sitting in the 80s as you head along in eastern.
And the planning forecast shows the next couple of days are going to be awfully nice to get outside, get those errands done. We're looking at 60 degrees for our daytime high on both Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday, we cool
if
it
you're in
down.
the mountains, temperatures will be somewhat cooler. They'll be sitting in the 60s and 70s, except on top of the mountain itself, where they'll be sitting in the low to middle 40s.
Here in the 90s backyard, but we expect them to intensify.
No, that Pam Pam thing was from something. I don't remember what it was. Okay, you see, I don't understand this, Katie. I mean, I'm not sure if your point is that people we call black people are not actually black. It's just a deeper shade of brown than, let's say, Indians. Or you think that there's something wrong with it on some sort of other offensive scale. I don't know. We technically Caucasian are not white. Very far from white. This is white, and I'm pretty pale skinned. It's a differentiation thing. So I don't know what we got to come up with something. People definitely make a big deal about the color of your skin. And that doesn't matter whether you're white or black anymore, or Asian or whatever you are. People make a big deal about it. They do. Oh, here we go. Let's not get into the whole juice. No more Excel, PowerPoint works. Join this millennium. What am I supposed to use? Yeah, okay, Mayo.
Into the afternoon hours and eventually get so gusty that we could see some potential damage, much like we saw overnight heading into Sunday evening. Well, let's get into the forecast.
The Pacific Coast. It's off to our east that we're seeing the heavier showers and thunderstorms. We're going to continue to see chances for those showers and thunderstorms.
10 minutes of nonstop news, starting with a news alert. Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper now saying state lawmakers should consider gun control measures.
Just a decade ago, Colorado had 2 Republican U.S. senators, 5 out of 7 members of the House of Representatives, a governor.
Oh, is that what it was? It was Bam Bam? Is that what I got it from in my brain? I was saying Bam, 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 Bam. Maybe it was. I did something Bam Bam.
Both houses of the state legislature and almost every single elected official statewide.
We're getting to important stuff.
Colorado
here. 5
gun control measures.
Start over.
Just a decade ago, Colorado had 2 Republican U.S. senators, 5 out of 7 members of the House of Representatives, a governor, both houses of the state legislature, and almost every single elected official statewide.
Colorado was a place where people could come and unleash their human potential.
Now, I think this movie was made 9 years ago, so I think they were saying back in 2004. But still, they went from that in 2004 to today being arguably the second wokest state after California. It's certainly woker than New York.
That's why builders and miners and cattlemen and software engineers and brewmasters came to Colorado to unleash their potential. That's what Colorado was.
You might not recognize Colorado today. To understand the Rocky Mountain heist, you have to begin with the Colorado model, an underground network of extremist liberal groups so secretive that veteran conservative lawmakers like Ted Harvey didn't see it coming.
There was no way we could respond. We didn't have the resources to be able to respond, and the media was totally off guard. They didn't realize what had happened until...
Dude, the media is in on it.
After the fact.
And then, of course, Fred Barnes wrote the Colorado model for the Weekly Standard, and so that's how it came to my attention.
Well, Colorado, I'd always thought of as a pretty conservative state. And yet Democrats have, over the recent decades, had done pretty well there. And then I realized, after hearing from a couple of people, that Democrats had organized in ways that were helping them enormously.
The Colorado model was being built by 4 massively wealthy Coloradans.
Tim Gill,
Rupp Bridges,
Jared Polis,
and Pat Stryker.
So it was key to have these wealthy funders. Now, it was a little embarrassing to Democrats. They didn't play it up, this Gang of 4, because they're the people who are always railing against rich people playing a big role in campaigns. And that's exactly what happened.
Where you look at Tim Gill and Pat Stryker, they revel in the fact that they are known nationally as the billionaires that took over and bought Colorado. They revel in that.
They became known as the Gang of 4. Tim Gill, a reclusive tech mogul, Rupp Bridges, who made his money on oil exploration software, Jared Polis, one of the richest members of Congress who sold his internet greeting card business for several $100 million, and Pat Stryker, an heiress so hidden behind the walls of her estate that very little is known about her or her motives.
I don't think most people inside Colorado realize it. I think most people still haven't the foggiest idea what happened.
Gang of 4. It sounds actually very familiar, but I couldn't tell you.
I do not know who the Gang of 4 are.
No, I've never heard of the Gang of 4. And the other person you mentioned?
I've heard the name Pat Stryker, but I can't tell you what it means.
I didn't hear it.
Ask if Pat Stryker is a man or a woman. It's Pat.
I've never heard of Ted Gillis.
I have not heard of that. What Bridges? Brett Bridges? Brett, I'm sorry.
Well, I guess I'll have to go online and do some research.
Yep.
You had this system that kind of happened, and it was rich guys who decided to bet on their horses. The left decided to buy the racetrack.
Rob Whitwer co-wrote the book The Blueprint, exposing the trail blazed by the Gang of Four to infiltrate Colorado politics.
The word that you come across again and again when studying the progressive or democratic strategy is infrastructure. Infrastructure is the blocking and tackling of political campaigns.
And so they brought together a team. What they did is they pulled together all these groups to the left that previously didn't work well together.
Enter Colorado's largest and most powerful teachers union, the Colorado Education Association. Steps from the Capitol, it became the Gang of Four's war room. Inside these walls in 2004, they assembled some of the nation's most liberal groups and drew the plans not for a battle, but a never-ending offensive.
The radical environmentalists that have a seat at the table. There is the labor unions, the SEIU, and other labor unions, the CEA, the Colorado Teachers Union.
Working with the trial lawyers, working with the bond dealers, and working with this new group of homosexual activists who all realized all of their agenda moves forward if Democrats take over.
So what they decided to do was to put together a strategy, a political strategy that had never been used before anywhere, by creating up to 30 different groups.
Groups to push ethics complaints and legal harassment, groups to do
they invented lawfare.
MoveOn.org type activism.
These were not new ideas, but they just hadn't been planted at the state level. And Colorado was the place when it was first done, and boy, did it work.
The Democrats, with good legal advice, they were able to create committees that supposedly did not coordinate with the candidates, but actually did.
Was there hanky-panky going on? Was there something that skirted the law? Yeah, we have suspicions that's the case. Overwhelmingly, they changed the rules. They changed the law.
Those of you who are joining late, wondering what we're watching, I will put a link to this when I'm done with it. So, it's called Rocky Mountain Heist.
And therefore, they were able to exploit those changes.
Very much like a political venture capital fund. They said, these are the returns that we want on our investment. The returns that we want on our investment are to win the state House of Representatives, to win the state Senate, to win the governor's race.
In 2002, Democrats convinced voters to pass Amendment 27, opening the floodgates to the millions the Gang of Four wanted to spend. This would take spending levels in Colorado campaigns to new heights.
And I remember the commercials vividly. And they said, take the nastiness out of politics. Vote for Amendment 27. Well, who doesn't want to take the nastiness out of politics? So it passed, and I haven't seen it more nasty.
Under the deceitful guise of campaign finance reform, Amendment 27 passed, and Democrats were quick to take advantage of new ways to fill their coffers. Then, the Democrats enlisted a liberal court to help stack the deck.
The Supreme Court justices putting their people on the redistricting panel that drew the lines in a way that the Republicans couldn't recover.
Republican incumbents walked into a trap.
Everybody says that negative advertising doesn't work. They're nuts. It most certainly does.
And I remember being home in the kitchen with my then newborn and toddler and hearing off to the side on the TV commercials against me, which was unheard of in a House race at the time. It was amazing.
Pam Rhodes, running for a state House seat.
A state House seat. It's like I can't even tell you who's sitting in my state house. I can't even tell you who my state assembly. I know who my state assemblyman is. That's happen. It's only by quirk of fate because I happen to know him personally. But my local state assemblyman is. I know who that is. But that's because I know Gary personally. But if I didn't know him personally.
And mother of two, vividly remembers the viciousness of the attacks against her in 2004.
It was on a kids channel, and I heard something about Pam Rhodes wants your children to smoke, and it was all I could think of is people can't believe that's true, right? I mean, that's so crazy.
They were outright.
Pam Rhodes wants your children to smoke cigarettes. Pam Rhodes once ran over 9 black children in a Jeep that was also burning excess gas.
Right lies. So all of a sudden, these hand grenades came in from all over the place, and it didn't matter if they were truths, didn't matter if they were a lie, it didn't matter.
So they had millions and millions of dollars that they were putting into this, and Republicans didn't have anything to match it, and still don't.
At the time, Democrats were last
Hey, look at that
in
map.
registered
Look at that map.
voters, behind both independents.
Look at that map. Tell me that's not a rectangle. That ain't no rectangle. That ain't no rectangle. That's a trapezoid. That's not a rectangle. I don't know what's happening. It's very confusing me. Don't tell me the Earth curves. You're surprised by this? I'll be thinking about this for months.
And Republicans.
Oh, okay. It's definitely not a square. It's a rectangle. Just stop.
But despite all this, the Gang of Four swept their Democrat candidates into power.
The State House switched from Republican to Democratic for the first time in about 40 years.
But the Gang of Four and their new organization, the Colorado Democracy Alliance, or CODA, were just getting started.
Instead of resting on their 2004 victories, they built a political machine to dominate the next decade.
Colorado Democracy Alliance. It is a very well-funded business. You see them hiring people that are full-time operatives.
The result was a campaign that never quit, an assault that was doing far more than winning elections.
The bigger picture is not just to win an election. It is not. It is to change the culture, to change America. Fits right in with Obama's plan of fundamental transformation.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
CODA's message was clear. If you had an R next to you,
but that's, I guess. I guess. So it's not a rectangle. Okay, fine. All you who talk about the latitude lines and stuff like that. So you're saying it's not a rectangle. That's what you're saying. Okay. I'll accept it's not a rectangle. I just want to know which is it? Is it a rectangle or not? I'm not telling you that I'm not telling you there's such thing as latitude. I understand this latitude. I get how that works, where all those lines merge at the top. I get about the North Pole and the South Pole. I understand that. I'm simply saying I always thought it was a rectangle. Everyone who asks says it's a rectangle. Ain't no freaking rectangle.
your name, you had a target on your back. Libby Szabo was defeated in her state Senate run in 2008.
There were groups coming in saying things that I don't know where they came up with. That is not what
Libby Szabo's schemes are bad for our kids. This is what selling can cause harm to children.
I thought. That is not who I am. I had been involved in that community for over 20 years.
And Republicans like Matt Needler, who they defeated in 2006.
My favorite one was a television ad on cable stations when I ran for the state Senate that said I was weak on immigration.
When it comes to immigration, Matt Needler is a wet canoodle.
Why would, and Congressman Tancredo's legislative.
I need to see that again.
And Matt Needler is a wet canoodle.
Oh my God. This is so sad.
Why would, and Congressman Tancredo's legislative director, Congressman Tancredo was Mr. Anti-illegal immigration. My record was very clear, and the Democrats felt that the best way to strike me down was to change what voters believed about me, to say that I was too soft on immigration. So they ran ads saying I was soft on immigration. It was whatever it took to win.
All of a sudden I started seeing TV commercials for a state house race, and I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? Who is this person? Where'd they get the kind of money?
The Gang of Four in Coda operated invisible to the outside world. No one knows how much was spent or whether Coda's shadow organizations even existed from one day to the next.
There was an analysis done by the Denver Post looking at the 2010 race, and it was hopelessly complex.
Money was no object to Gang of Four member Tim Gill, as long as he could push his social agenda.
Apparently, part of his social agenda is to abolish antiperspirant. What the hell is happening under his pits? I mean, I guess that's consistent with a lot of leftists.
We have successfully flipped legislatures around this country from Republican control to Democratic control, and the net result is always good for gay people. Always.
As a candidate.
Listen, Rob. I appreciate you coming in here and weighing in, especially when I specifically asked for some of my more left-leaning folk to weigh in. I appreciate that. But you're saying here Republicans are always better funded. So what? The point here is that's not true. And I'm not sure what your basis of believing that is. See, that's the thing is, I think Democrats think they're like, oh yeah, we're the populists. It's like, no, you're really not. You're corporations. I mean, look at all the woke corporations that we have now. I think that your perspective on this may have been true 30 years ago. But the reason that you're buying all this stuff now is because you've been sold it by a lot of very rich folk, like George Soros of the world, or the Gang of Four. What's the point?
I was just a 29-year-old guy with a cute dog and a beautiful wife, and I was running for office, and I wanted to improve our roads in our district, and that was it. It turns out that group had a budget of at least $200,000 to just alone to target me.
It was dirty, but ineffective. It worked.
Some of that dirt was exposed when internal election documents were leaked straight from Coda offices.
And it turned out it was an intern that the leftist think tank had working for them. And I spoke with him. He said, I keep seeing all these people coming into our offices. The Democratic leadership from the legislature, these rich guys that are coming in, the trial lawyers are coming in, they keep coming in and meeting. And afterwards, I have to clean up the room. I'm seeing these documents, and I was scared to death.
One document exposes apparent arrogance and even contempt Coda had toward voters. Plans for an Educate the Idiots campaign. The memo states the AFL-CIO would be tasked to educate the idiots and clearly labels one so-called idiot group minorities.
The Educate the Idiots campaign. Really insulting stuff.
Just below educating the idiots, plans to abuse the court system with legal maneuvering to wage distraction lawsuits against Republican candidates and organizations before the election. Ironically, the left's hypocritical champions of transparency dubbed it the leave no trace strategy. The Democrat majority wasted no time in expanding the role of government in virtually every aspect of life. It was open season on economic liberty and personal liberty, even declaring certain faucets, toilets, and shower heads illegal.
Again, everything that goes on in my house, they want to regulate what sort of toilets are in my bathrooms. And what
I remember when that came to New York. My mother, rest her soul, she's gone now 9.5 years. When she got a new house, they made her, or when she updated her house, she didn't get a new house. They remodeled. My parents remodeled their house, and they were putting in toilets. They had to put in these low flow toilets, which she called no flow toilets, because she's like, it's like you have to flush 14 times.
kind of light bulbs are in my lamps. Raise women's taxes more. They want to tell me what doctor I can go to, what health plan I can have. That is the war on women, somebody controlling everything we do.
Whatever CODA wants is what happens.
State Senator Greg Brophy has seen regulations creep into nearly every aspect of Colorado life.
telling kids what they.
What, you guys have a problem with that? What, you want to flush a gallon of water down the sewer every time you flush the toilet? You Nazis? You water Nazis?
Can and can't eat.
You're trying to just destroy the earth?
Eat at school, all of the renewable energy mandates, significantly empowering the trial lawyers.
The Democrat takeover predictably spread into green energy mandates, leading to higher prices for Coloradans.
The legislature recently has passed bills that have raised utility rates in rural areas.
He was district attorney then. This is before he became a member of the House. And I'll tell you that he's leaving the House now. He announced that he's not going to be running in 2024. And I think that's because he thinks he can't win. I think he believes he cannot win. And he's afraid of being primaried out. After he went up against Jim Jordan, I think he's afraid of being primaried out. And he basically said, I'm going up against Jim Jordan because he is an election denier, which is not really an election denier. It's an election integrity denier. Just different. That's a completely different thing. But it's actually an election integrity demander. I'm an election integrity guy. I don't know. Maybe that makes me a terrible person.
And that was done just to really satisfy the environmentalists in this coalition.
It's nothing new. Coloradans are rejecting these policies. But to the Gang of Four's political operation, the politicians who support them are expendable and instantly replaceable. Such was the case with Colorado Democrat Governor Bill Ritter.
So they put in place renewable energy mandates. They put in place restrictions on oil and gas industry. Nothing went through the legislature, nothing got through the governor's office that didn't have the stamp of approval from the radical environmental movement. It was.
Oh, and Trigger of Oz sends me a $2 tip saying, I found $2 in the lounge crack today. I'm giving you half of it. And I suck at math. I added that last part.
So extreme that he couldn't run again.
For all of Ritter's unpopular, damaging, and costly policies, he was richly rewarded.
Ritter went on to earn a $300,000 a year salary paid for by Pat Stryker up at CSU.
Ritter was installed at the Center for the New Energy Economy, working with politicians and bureaucrats to create job-killing environmental policies.
They are changing Colorado, certainly in my opinion, for the worse.
I really don't see what the point of raising utility rates to the point where companies don't want to move into Colorado and we can't create jobs in Colorado.
Governor Hickenlooper signed a bill he himself admitted was flawed. Now utilities are forced by the government to use renewable energy to power 20% of their output. To pay for it, they were allowed to raise rates on those who could least afford it.
The 2013 legislative session.
And that's the thing. That's the thing that, like, whatchamacallit, that's this whole thing about this climate change initiative, this Green Earth initiative, is people who are really rich, the billionaires, who everyone hates the billionaires because they're billionaires, and Lord knows that every time they get involved in politics, because there's reasons to hate them, but they don't give a damn if you raise their basic necessity costs by 100%, 200%, 500%, 10,000%. It doesn't hurt them. They won't notice it. I mean, you're talking about people who have enough money that, like, if they wanted to, like, just buy I heard, when I was on with Nick Picada a long time ago, a year and a half ago, I wasn't making it. I was like just sort of popping on his channel as like during one of the streams. I think it might have been during the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. So this is a while ago. And I popped in there where he had a whole panel going on, and they were talking about, I don't know, some billionaire who basically wanted to drive I don't know, some stupid rich luxury car for like a day. So they bought the car, which was like, I don't know, like a $2 million car, and then returned it like the next day for like and got back like 1.4 million. So they basically paid 600,000, and they're like, and when you realize that they made more money than that day anyway, it's like, what the heck is you think they care if milk goes up from $3 a gallon to $12 a gallon? I mean, they have no, they're going to the slightest damn if their basic grocery bills go up from like 20,000 a month that they probably spend to 70,000 a month. They're gonna freaking notice. They don't notice. They don't care. They don't care. It's the poor. It's the poor who suffer from this stuff. You raise their cost by 10%. It's like they can't live. They can't feed their children. So when you talk about jacking things up, because we got to tighten the belt more for climate change, tighten it more for climate change. The people who suffer first are the poorest.
Was the most partisan, most brutal, most activist, and most elitist I have ever seen.
There was estimates that the cost of energy because of 252 on rural Colorado will be a 50% increase. Mom and pop farmers can't continue to farm if their energy costs are going to be going up by 50%.
It's definitely an attack on liberty. We went from having the cheapest energy rates in the Rocky Mountain West to having the second highest, only behind California.
Now we have one of
the cheapest in the Midwest to the second highest in the country.
The highest renewable energy mandates in the country. This is amazing that it happened here.
Colorado was beginning to experience on the state level the same corrupt patterns of government cronyism occurring in the Obama administration with Solyndra and others. Billionaire Pat Stryker backed a company which received $400 million of taxpayer money.
Pat Stryker was definitely a founder of CODA, and Pat Stryker also was the bankroller for Abound Energy, a company that was funded from Barack Obama's stimulus money, and now it's abandoned in Fort Collins.
Well, I would refer you to the Department of Energy for specifics about any particular loan. Inherent within these kinds of investments that there is risk.
The government has decided that it's going to pick winners and losers in the energy area.
But it's really about funneling power and jobs to those people that support CODA or support those organizations.
4,100 gallons of toxic waste was left sitting in the Stryker-backed green energy company.
And even though many of these people are billionaires or multi-billionaires on their own, if they can utilize our money to basically accomplish their social agenda, that's a great thing for them.
Every facet of the state's $30 billion a year oil and gas industry is under assault by CODA and the Gang of Four. So much so that Governor Hickenlooper hedged on his fracking opposition when the issue threatened him and Senator Mark Udall's re-election. It follows the CODA trend to mask true intentions during an election year.
The environmentalists have also pushed to limit fracking in Colorado and really make it more difficult for the oil and gas companies to develop energy, fossil fuel energy in Colorado.
Private property rights in particular are something that are very important, of course, to people in the Western United States. And CODA and its aligned groups on the left have definitely been attacking private property rights on a lot of areas.
The infrastructure of the Gang of Four attracted scores of environmental radicals. Now these self-described fractivists, like fractivist.org founder Shane Davis, organize to push their agenda onto pro-growth towns and county governments. These zealots have gone so far as to compare their fight to the civil rights struggle.
This has gone from just being a tree hugger protecting the environment to a civil rights movement.
Basically, they're trying to stop those people utilizing what is rightfully theirs.
So this civil rights movement now, as you're seeing in Fort Collins, Loveland, Lafayette, Broomfield, all along the Front Range are standing up, fighting for their civil rights.
But in fact, the radical agenda of the left was dividing the state to historic levels.
Tonight, the fight to form a 51st state. Some in northern Colorado want to secede from the state of Colorado.
Voters in 5 counties ended up voting in support of secession efforts to form a 51st state.
the Colorado state flag is still flying high here in Fort Lupton, at least for now.
It underscored a deep and growing divide between liberal elites and grassroots Coloradans. The radical agenda the Gang of Four had thrust on the state had finally reached a tipping point.
Jared Polis wants to outlaw fracturing, which will run every major oil and gas company out of the state of Colorado.
Jared Polis even released a video expressing his outrage that a private property owner had dared to frack near one of his guest houses.
So this is our guest house. My partner Marlon always has a big Halloween gathering here every year, which is a lot of fun. You know, this part of our Colorado dream is over.
While the Halloween party might be canceled, the Democrats' Polis helped.
His little sad face. Unbelievable. Snuggle struggle. Thank you for support, brother. In my township, we've had people from blue hellhole cities 200 miles away running, not even bothering to move here. Wow. A local who won was removed by third-party rumor overheard by another. Expensive lawfare because of bias. Unbelievable. Yeah, that's what it is. Tons of lawfare. Tons of lawfare. Where's the money coming from?
To put in the state house found another way to help manipulate elections.
It was nicknamed by most of the folks on my side of the aisle as same-day voter fraud.
Chris Holbert watched the Democrats pass one of the most alarming voter laws in America.
So I can go live here in this.
You see, this is where you're so. I know you mean well. I know you mean well. I know you mean well. Look at the names you're citing there. I mean, first of all, you're talking about Musk. When did Musk get into politics? When? Like 6 minutes ago? And how much of is he investing in politics rather than just his own company? That doesn't mean anything. But it's like, did you miss? I don't know. 750 out of 800 of my shows where I keep telling you this is not. It's not simply exclusively like this is left versus right. And I understand that this is talking about how a red state flipped blue. So I understand that. I get that. You look at it like you're citing Liz Cheney. I mean, come on. Liz Cheney's all about corporations. The Bush family is all about freaking corporations. You're thinking like this 1990s politician. And I'm saying this. I'm not saying I'm not being disrespectful. I'm saying you have to break out of this. I don't know how to. I've been talking about this every freaking show. Every freaking show. I'm talking about how you don't see the uniparty. That it's basically that it's who is able. That it's a race of our politicians to enrich themselves. I don't know how I don't know how you're citing to me the Cheney family, for crying out loud. Bush and Cheney families. I mean, listen to what you're citing. In the last 7 years, you hear anyone talk about like the anyone on the right talk about the greatness of the Bushes, the Cheneys?
Community, but I could go to a different House or Senate district
around
the state and tell the county.
The Nikki Haley's of the world suck. So that's what I'm saying is like, you know, you have to sort of crack yourself out of like, well, I'm on the blue side, they're on the red side. These are the Republicans. No, it's a point as far as if this was the Bushes doing this in Denver, it would not be a good thing. If it was the Cheneys doing this in Wyoming, this would not be a good thing. This would be just as lousy a thing because they would be doing the exact same thing. Don't you see that? Everything you've been complaining, everything you claim to hate about the Republicans, the Democrats are even more steeped in. Even more steeped in. And everything you complain about that you hate about the Republicans, I hate that too.
Clerk,
That's why you keep coming back here, because I think you recognize that I hate that too. Freaking Liz Cheney's.
To live in the district, and they would be required to give me a live ballot, not a provisional ballot.
When they passed this new voter law, it was to make it so elections were much more malleable, much more easy to manipulate.
All you have to say is, I intend to live here. That's all. I intend to live here, and they'll let you vote. But that's what you can do once you take over the state government.
Voter laws like this open the door to widespread fraud, and the sponsors don't seem to mind one bit.
The Democrats, the people who are behind the bill, are not required to come and answer our questions. So if I ask you, what do you mean by intend to live in the district? They can just sit there and stare at us.
Precisely. Exactly. Great point, Snuggle Struggle. Nikki Haley, platform is to install World ID 2.0, a world coin, centralize authoritarianism, the removal of liberty outright. Exactly. So God forbid something happens to Trump and that Machshefa ends up running it and becoming president. You're gonna start saying, "Oh, you see, this is all what the Republicans are about." No.
They don't have to come and respond.
So basically, if you're willing to take a 3-week vacation in Colorado, you're legal to vote anywhere you want. You just have to say, I intend to live there.
Flouting the law is nothing new in the Mile High City.
I intend to live in Colorado. Can I run there?
Where Governor Hickenlooper served as mayor. Though Colorado's marijuana laws prohibit open consumption,
At least I'm capable of saying I intend to live in Colorado. I don't know when. Maybe like in the 2050s. We have to stop picking teams, start picking policies from a local level. Yep, that's my point. Precisely my point.
young Denverites and new transplants openly violate the rules.
But I'll tell you this, just to get on the same page with you, Robin. Okay, I am perfectly happy to say that if this was Republicans and Bushes and Cheneys and stuff like that, who are basically saying that, we need to jack up prices for XYZ, for, let's say, a tax to help save America and keep it protected, that's equally nefarious, equally evil, equally disgusting to American citizens. So can you call out this crap?
You can do pretty much whatever you want here.
You call out these empty changes to climate, these empty climate change answers, which aren't answers and aren't fixing anything, and all it's doing is just impoverishing those who need their money, need the few shekels they have most. That's what I'm asking. Can you do that?
You sit here, smoke weed, you can enjoy the sun, enjoy the rain. You can play Magic, the card game down at the bottom of the hill, the Magic Circle. You just come here to have a good time. I mean, hell, come here on a holiday. It's beautiful. Christmas, 4th of July, all of it. I mean, there's always people up here.
Well, Colorado allows you to smoke marijuana. It's the first state to legalize it for not only medical use, but recreational use. And I love myself and I love everybody. And I want the best for everybody and myself. And Colorado allows that by allowing diversity.
I recently did a post on my front door and on social media that I was not going to allow people entering my business that smell or reek of marijuana. I did have people vandalize my business, rip stuff off my building, spit on my building, I had threats.
Well, it started out, I got out here and, at first, heroin was a big drug. And then people, started, dealing more weed and everything because dispensaries started opening up. And then legalization came around, and then weed was finally, instead of having big-time weed dealers, now all of a sudden, you start getting meth pop up. Meth pops up everywhere.
Gang of Four member.
That's really interesting. So you're saying because, if it's not illegal anymore, we got to find something harder. So if meth became legalized, so in that case, then what? We go straight to fentanyl?
Jared Polis welcomes the young and aimless to Colorado with open arms, where they're gathering in pot enclaves like this park in Denver, known as Stoner Hill.
It's going great. Come out and visit, please. We want your tourism money. Come show solidarity, even if you don't buy or smoke marijuana.
Homeless people are leaving for the Rocky Mountains, and you might be able to guess why.
I'm not from here. I'm not a native of Colorado at all. I come from Louisiana.
You can vote.
So it's like, for me to come out here and to see the atmosphere, knowing that weed is legal, guys like us, we come up here to Stoner Hill to smoke. We come up here to chill, mingle, whatever.
Whatever your views on marijuana legalization, and for the record, I support medical marijuana, the broader political and social engineering motives of radical Jared Polis and his Gang of Four colleagues are certainly cause for concern. Polis supports federal legislation to turn every state into Colorado. He wants to impose Stoner Hill on the rest of the country, a sanctuary for Democrat voting dependents, whether you want it or not. And Polis has the Obama administration and its selective enforcers at the Justice Department on his side to push the boundaries to the extreme.
You want to head
Denver has become a sanctuary for chaos in more ways than one.
Mr. Hickenlooper, the biggest criticism of you so far has probably been that you allegedly preside over a sanctuary city.
We can't deport. We don't have the power, the statutory power to do deportations.
What?
Instead of touring the chaos of America's crumbling borders in the summer of 2014, President Obama and Governor Hickenlooper decided to play pool at a bar. The optics spoke volumes.
Believe me, immigration policy for America is now totally political.
To me,
Democrat
shots of Hickenlooper and Obama together is not like anything. To me, that's like, all right, now you're reaching.
Party that looks at those people coming across and say, you know, those are all undocumented Democrats.
In Congress, Jared Polis is pressuring the president to end deportations.
We will bring full pressure to bear on the president to use the authority that he already has to expand deferred action to halt deportations.
Latinos have not only been increasing in their potential to vote, but they have been voting increasingly Democratic over the last 10 years in Colorado.
If those folks coming across that border all ended up voting conservative Republican, there'd be a 50-foot high wall with broken glass on the top.
I was born to Filipino immigrants in Philadelphia. My parents came here legally. It wasn't easy. They learned English, they learned our history, they followed our rules. They came here for the American dream and cherished our constitutional republic. That's the same experience that millions of law-abiding immigrants and their families share across America. But progressives like Jared Polis say none of that matters. It's the sheer numbers of future Democrat voters that counts. It's about cheap labor and political gain.
Enterprise cities. So it's kind of looking at an immigration lead example would be a look at freeing up a city like Detroit. To say Detroit, under direct charter from the federal government, it's like a charter city, and they've looked at doing this in Guatemala or Honduras, as a charter city would be able to effectively have their own immigration policy.
You can be arrogant when you recognize that, you know, you've got this powerful force behind you.
That sentiment
A city having its own immigration policy? Hey, you just, does any of that sound sane? A city having its own immigration policy. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Because that's where they get stuck. Once they're in Detroit, no one ever gets the hell out of Detroit. Unbelievable. That's unbelievable. People are crazy. Crazy.
Rings true for Governor Hickenlooper when he referred to some of his own constituents as backwards for having beliefs that differ from his own.
We have some of the same, you know, backwards thinking in the kind of rural western areas.
Cake shop owner in Colorado now facing fines or even jail time after he refused to bake a cake for a same-sex wedding due to his religious beliefs. So does becoming a business owner mean you have to check your convictions at the door?
as the state considered fining Christian business owners for their religious beliefs, Governor Hickenlooper appeared to issue a threat to Colorado voters, suddenly granting a reprieve to a convicted mass murderer who killed 4 people in a family pizza parlor.
Governor John Hickenlooper appears to drop hints that he would give the Chuck E. Cheese killer Nathan Dunlap full clemency after Election Day if Hickenlooper loses, criticized by some as poor leadership.
Even though 2/3 of Coloradans support the death penalty, it didn't matter. CODA and the Colorado Democrats had enjoyed alarming success and encountered few roadblocks. But all that came crashing down when they began messing with the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, brazenly forcing liberal East Coast values on freedom-loving Rocky Mountain citizens.
In 2013, we had 2 gun control bills pushed.
I never thought about that, how it is that, like, you know, how that meshes, like, leftist values in a Midwestern area where everyone's used to having their guns. That's an interesting schism.
By billionaire Michael Bloomberg from New York City come to Colorado.
They wanted to take Michael Bloomberg's gun laws and put them here in Colorado.
We do know that when the session started after the Newtown, Connecticut
his gun laws, which later were deemed illegal by the Supreme Court,
shooting, that he did get phone calls from Mayor Bloomberg, and he's lied about those.
Well, let's stick to the facts. I never talked to Mayor Bloomberg. Again, that's been out in the press and all this stuff. And just for the record, you know, I met Mayor Bloomberg when I was a mayor, and I know him. I think he's a pretty good mayor.
You know, you'll catch your child reaching into the cookie jar. They'll say, "No, I'm not stealing any cookies." That's what Governor Hickenlooper did. His hand was literally covered in crumbs everywhere, and he had chocolate all over his lips. And what? Mayor Bloomberg? No, he didn't talk. I don't know. Who is he?
Governor Hickenlooper even blamed his signing of the gun law bill on one of his staff.
One of my staff made a commitment that we would sign it if it got passed.
But the Colorado Secretary of State's own website reveals that Bloomberg's group, Mayors Against Illegal Guns, registered several lobbyists, including the Gang of Four's own strategist, Ted Trimpa, who has been nicknamed Colorado's answer to Karl Rove.
But Ted Trimpa, who is the field general for the Gang of Four, the Colorado Democracy Alliance, was in the building to usher through the 2 Bloomberg gun control bills. And those were the 2 controversial bills that passed.
We have more guns than people in this country, but I need more guns to protect myself. That strategy doesn't work.
Mayor Bloomberg, how you doing? Why can you defend yourself but not the majority of Americans? I mean, look at the team of security you got, and you're an advocate for gun control?
Their weaknesses include arrogance. The 2013 legislative session was arrogant. There's no other word for it.
While Democrat legislators did the bidding of New York's gun control crusading mayor and took calls directly from Vice President Joe Biden, they refused to respond to Colorado's own citizens, and they badmouthed Second Amendment activists in the halls of the state legislature. Take, for example, the Democrat president of the state Senate during the gun control debate, saying that there was a sickness that needed cleansing.
Cleansing a sickness from our souls doesn't come easily. It's gruesome.
Their minds were turned off. They weren't interested in Lawgic.
Unbelievable.
They were interested in paying back Michael Bloomberg and giving him and Tim Gill and Pat Stryker and the leftists who got them in office.
One Democrat senator callously dismissed a rape victim who came to the State House to testify against gun control measures that disempower women.
What would have been different if I had been carrying the weapon I was licensed to carry that night?
She was raped on a campus, on a college campus. And she said if I would have been able to have something to protect me, I think I wouldn't have been raped. And the committee chairman told her, no, you probably would have still been raped.
I just want to say that actually statistics are not on your side, even if you had had a gun.
Statistics are on the side that that woman who said that has zero chance of ever being raped. But yeah, unbelievable, the audacity The audacity of saying this to a woman. How the hell do you know? How the flip do you know? Were you there? Were you there on that dark night when she was raped? Ridiculous. Do you know how much advance notice she had? Whether maybe she had 5, 7, 8 seconds to react? Idiot. Stupid moron. Gross. Gross fared.
All 62 elected sheriffs, came out against them, but they weren't heard. They weren't listened to. The governor wouldn't return the phone call. They weren't even allowed to testify in any great way when the bills were shoved through all on the same day. It was arrogance.
Colorado's sheriffs desperately tried to meet with Governor Hickenlooper to voice their strong opposition to his gun bill.
I didn't find out that the sheriffs were trying to talk to me until a week afterwards.
When they asked why he did not meet with them and signed the bill anyway, Hickenlooper tried turning it into a joke.
How many apologies do you want? I apologize.
Another representative said in a floor debate that women should be able to protect themselves with a whistle and a pen. So we can blow our whistle.
That's why we have call boxes. That's why we have safe zones. That's why we have the whistles.
Pretty sure nobody's going to pay attention to a whistle.
There's a rather well-known scene now of Senate President Morris on the Rachel Maddow show admitting.
Look at this. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. New member of the following. New member. Welcome aboard. Welcome to the following. Now, as you know, this is the following program, and followers of the show but call followers. But I'm not the leader of this very non-culty type of cult. Not at all the leader. I am not your leader. I'm just another dude. You can even call me just another dude. I would prefer if you would call me just another dude. I was thinking about legally changing my name to just another dude. In fact, little known fact, the reason that my name is Joe is because it's like saying, oh, there's just like he's a regular Joe. That's the whole point. So it's sort of like it's already just another dude, not the leader of this very non-culty type of, not at all like a cult. So welcome aboard. And I saw a long time coming. Glad.
That he had told his caucus, the Senate Democrats, to effectively ignore the constituent concerns and move forward on that slate of gun control legislation.
We get the point that some of these folks think their Second Amendment rights are being abridged, and even though we know darn good and well that's not true, it's not worth getting into that argument with them, and so just move along and don't.
I'm calling attention to this right away. Look at this dude. Gifting 10 freaking memberships. God bless you, Trent. 10 brand new members of the following. It's like they're just like, it's raining followers. Raining followers. It's good. It's good. Because I was thinking like of having like a baseball game, and I was worried that we were going to have like, that we're only going to have like, 16 followers. So like now I feel like we put together two full teams. Thank you, Trent. Thank you so much. I'll bring the mitts. You bring the bats and balls. Well, you brought the players. We'll get someone else bring the bats and balls. We'll be good. Someone bring bases. Or if not, we can just go old school and we'll use like those jackets I would take off and use those for bases when I was a kid. Great job. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Read any more of these than you absolutely have to.
The operatives for the Democrat Party in this state used every issue they could but guns to try and gain power. They knew that if they ran it straight up the middle and said, we want the majority so we can act gun controls, they'd lose. But the very first thing they did when they got the majority in both the state house, state senate, and the governorship is rammed gun control down Colorado's throats.
Whether the legislation was good or bad in the eyes of constituents, at the moment where they demonstrated that arrogance of don't listen to your constituents, I think the world turned against them.
Yeah, apparently not enough. Apparently not enough.
The gun control legislation that was passed in Colorado was...
What the heck is this? Lie. It's a cult. Lie. He's our leader. No, he does brainwash us very little, and he's sending us Kool-Aid. It's the hydrated thing. You have to add your own freaking water. I don't know what you're talking about. It's craziness.
Was not reflective of what the constituents in certain of those districts wanted to see.
What they didn't realize is we have the recall in Colorado.
Finally, living under the machine the Gang of Four created had reached a tipping point. Coloradans reclaimed control from the shadowy elites and launched a grassroots effort to take their state back.
Yeah, how's that going? That's not going well. I'll just tell you, it's not going well. I don't know if you read any Supreme Court decisions recently. It ain't going well.
The pro-recall forces were outspent 11-1, and we won and recalled 2 state senators.
The public rose up and said absolutely not, and recalled the president of the Senate, the Democrat leader of the Senate. And the Gang of Four said, thank you very much for your service. Thank you for getting accomplished this agenda item for us, but you're expendable and we don't need you anymore.
Thanks to the 2010 Supreme Court decision in Citizens United versus FEC, Coloradans could finally fight back. Citizens United restored First Amendment protections to political speech, ensuring the rights of citizens and grassroots activists to join together and speak with one voice. The playing field is finally level. Activism and money from the grassroots, along with the will of the people, won. The Gang of Four and the governor's good friends Bloomberg and Biden were shown the door.
No response tonight from former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg about his controversial remarks about Colorado.
Here's what he said, quote, the NRA went after 2 or 3 state senators in a part of Colorado where I don't think there's roads. It's as far rural as you can get.
Well, the mayor may not realize the recalls happened in Colorado Springs and in Pueblo. The Springs is the 2nd largest city in the state, while Pueblo is the 7th.
And we have plenty of paved roads.
What it's going to
Nice.
Take is for us to worry about principle and not personality, to be less enamored with a politician and more enamored with liberty and how we get there.
Given the success of the uprising against gun control under Citizens United Freedoms, it is not surprising Senator Udall proposes to reverse free speech across the country. His amendment would allow the government to regulate speech, creating a system just as broken as the so-called Colorado reforms.
The most radical proposal that
Look
has
how
been
young he
considered by the United States Senate in the time I have served.
Look how young he looks.
If this proposal were to pass, its effects would be breathtaking.
What happened in Colorado is now taking shape in other states. Many operatives are being sent to places like Texas and Virginia to turn red states blue and take the Colorado model across state lines.
I mean, think of this. Colorado, the West, has become a poster child for gun control. How does that happen? Here is the West, where people came out to make their fortunes mining and drilling and growing crops and raising animals. And now our property rights are being diminished. The message is, if it happened here, it can happen in every state in the country.
Yep.
And that's what we need to be careful of.
And that's why I'm ringing the bell. Ding, 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 ding. I'm ringing the bell. My bell still doesn't work. All I got is one of these. That's not the bell I want. Dang it. Where's my bell? I need a bell. Joe Neerman is the leader of the following. Nope. A real secret cult. This is illegally binding. No, not the leader. Very much not the leader of the following. Oh, wow. God bless you, brother. Guy just joined, and now he's bringing along his own baseball team. It's like a softball team. We got 10 of them. God bless you. Give me one of those freaking horns. Your freaking generosity. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. 10K view. 10K view. 10K view. I'm only 10K viewers from actually hitting my 100K. So, yeah. I just need another 10K. Another 10K. Speaking of which, I will tell you, I actually reached out pursuant to suggestions from his one of his PR guys, his head PR guys. I reached out to Vivek Ramaswamy team asking if I can get an interview because I got a few questions for him that I haven't heard anyone else ask him. Got a few questions. Love to spend an evening hanging out and chatting with him. I think he'd have a great time also. I know he'd have a great time. Everyone who comes here has a great time. Why wouldn't you? I'm cool. Master Phillips says Colorado's drawn with 2 lateral and 2 long lines. So the northern border lateral line will be shorter than the southern one. Look it up. Term is geospherical rectangle, about an hour behind in stream right now. No, you're you might think you're an hour, but it's probably like only 10 minutes. So there you go. Play faster. Make time move faster. Use a whole theory of relativity. You need to do is this. If you start traveling the speed of light, you'll catch up to me. Because everyone knows that if you travel the speed of light, that forces me to move slower.
This Colorado model is being exported.
There's reason to believe until it fails that it's going to continue to succeed.
If they can do it in Texas, Colorado's one thing, but if they can do it in Texas, Republicans are doomed.
Battleground Texas, a group that is formed to turn Texas blue.
Battleground Texas organizers have already been exposed utilizing potential illegal tactics.
Remember, this is 2014 that they put this together. So yeah, I mean, I understand why. Okay. I don't think Texas is going blue, but I caution you when I say that I never thought Georgia would be as blue as it is. So, still can't explain Georgia.
Confidential information to boost Democrat turnout.
It shows an organizer with the Democratic Political Action Committee, Battleground Texas, allegedly breaking the law.
Invite Sean.
They do to Texas.
I love Sean. He knows that. Even though if I get him on here, I'm going to sit here having a whole lengthy argument with him about whether or not SCOTUS is going to overturn that stupid Colorado decision. I'm supposed to be wrapping up here in 5 minutes, but if he wants to have that argument with me, I'll go 3 rounds with him on that. Back. Didn't mean to stop screen. I'll go 3 rounds with him on that. I'll send him a link if that's what he's looking for. I didn't see him in the chat. It's possible I missed him though. So where was I? Entire screen. Share. I'll send him a link. Invite. I'll send him a link. I'll have that political debate with him. No, not the catch-all, not the catch ball on back of truck video. No, I'm not doing that. We're not doing the catching the ball. It's the old catching the ball on the back of the truck video again.
What they did to Colorado over a course of years, game over. Because you could take all the presidential swing states, put them together, and they don't match what Texas does in a national election. Texas is going to be the prize.
And Texas is not alone. The infiltration of the once reliable red state of Virginia is all but complete. Groups such as Progress VA started in Colorado. Now these groups are thrusting an ultra-liberal agenda to transform Virginia. They're the ones that helped elect Clinton confidant and native New Yorker Terry McAuliffe as governor, setting the stage to deliver the state to Hillary in 2016.
Yeah, well, that didn't pan out. So, McAuliffe lost on re-election to Youngkin. Now, I will tell you this. And it's easy to say that now with the benefit of 2020 hindsight, or I guess 2023 hindsight. But I do want to have a little bit of conversation about turning the tide on this, like, for real.
What happens when CODA comes to your state is a liberal agenda is implemented. taxes go up, fees go up, you lose your individual liberty. They did it in Colorado, and they can do it in almost any state.
See, I think part of the reason that this might not have happened everywhere is perhaps because of social media.
The shady architects of the Rocky Mountain heist caught Colorado citizens.
See, I think social media is a boon to popularism. It's a boon to popularism. Elon Musk, what he's done in enabling popularism to flourish in a well-established social media giant is such a huge freaking deal. It is such a huge freaking deal, especially if you can actually keep his programmers from like screwing up the algorithm, and it can actually get some of my tweets seen by a few people. But this is not about me. The part about me, I'm saying facetiously. But the point being that as long as there's genuine free speech, you don't need me. Things will work just fine.
Off guard through secrecy, deception, and coordination. But the good news is, here in my state, we're doing everything we can to fight back and return power to the people. We know what we're up against, and now you do too.
I thought that was really interesting. I learned a lot. I don't know if you did. I learned a lot. I shared a link with Sean, but if he's not in here in the next minute or so, probably going to be wrapping it up. Because we're getting near the end of the week. It's near that time of day. It's near that time. Oh, look. Nick is late again? Is he? I was going to see if he's having a thing. I was going to see. Is he having a thing? I haven't kept people over to him in a while. I feel guilty. Let me see if we got him. Oh, yeah, he's got Thai beard on tonight. Oh, he's going 12:30. So then I will give him time. Sean, if you're out there, you want to pop in here. He's not going to 12:30. Now I feel like I can just sort of keep on rolling. Yeah, 30 minutes away. This is not real American thoughts. What do you guys think as far as the best way to fight against this? Against just like massive influxes of money. It really is 45 minutes. I know. I really took care of it. I took care of it. I hooked it up. Let me see what my diggers are doing. Am I red? Am I blue? Coconino, Colorado. I don't know what they're talking about. Can you talk about New York bill to force Chick-fil-A to open on Sundays? I didn't see that. New York bill, Chick-fil-A. I can look at it. We'll see if there's anything interesting there. I can kill a half hour with you guys if I can find stuff to talk about. If you guys give me good things to talk about. This is sounding like sort of so-so. This is like one of those New York Chick-fil-A. Let's see what we got. This is a so-so. Yeah, let's see what we got here. A bill in New York requires several Chick-fil-A restaurants to remain open on Sundays, contradicting the fast food chain's business practice of closing at the end of the week. The bill, the Rest Stop Restaurant Act, would affect all food and beverage companies along the state thruway and at Port Authority in New York and New Jersey, requiring all of them to stay open 7 days a week. Among these companies are 7 Chick-fil-A locations. Interesting. While there's nothing objectionable about a fast food restaurant closing on a particular day of the week, service areas dedicated to travelers is an inappropriate location for such a restaurant. Publicly owned service areas should use their space to maximally benefit the public. Allowing for retail space to go unused 1/7 of the week or more is a disservice and unnecessary inconvenience to travelers who rely on these service areas. That sounds kind of ridiculous. So, obviously, this is potentially trampling on their religious freedoms. The only way that that would work is if it's narrowly tailored. There's a compelling need for this. We're still going to struggle on the compelling need. And it's narrowly tailored. Those who are traveling may want to eat someplace before visiting their family. In the hypothetical scenario, the traveler is not a fan of the relatives cooking. Well, that's very compelling need right there. It's very compelling. This is like curing cancer right here. Simone also said the restaurants and throughways are meant to serve the New York travelers first. These dudes are crazy. You know what it is? That they don't have any religion at all. I mean, science works on Sunday. It's the only religion they believe in. For a restaurant to be able to close on Sunday, which is one of the busiest travel days, and he believes it is ridiculous for a restaurant to be able to close on Sunday, which is one of the busiest travel days of the week. What's even more ridiculous is the fact that you think you have some sort of control over private businesses. You don't like it? Don't let them. Then do you own those places? The bill comes after Irish convenience store chain Applegreen took control of all the leases for Thruway Authority service areas in 2021. All 27 service areas part of the. You see, they could have taken care of themselves. Look at this. Somebody wants to fight with me. Someone wants to fight me.
Well, what am I fighting?
I'll wrestle you. I'll be your Huckleberry.
Yeah.
How you doing today, my brother?
I'm feeling better. I'm feeling better. I'm not as doom-pilled.
Oh, you're not. So you're saying when you were of the belief that Scully is not gonna help out on this whole Colorado thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still very like I'm relying on Amy Coney Barrett to, like these are the people we're relying on to do the right thing. Like that's not confidence inspiring to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm worried about. Do I think, unlike your friend, I don't know if you saw your friend Pisco. Did you see any of his tweets today?
I actually responded.
It's unassailable. It's unassailable. Which
I responded to him
Yeah.
like literally like 5 minutes before.
Oh,
like 5 minutes before I came on here. He probably responded to me by now.
okay.
But I haven't seen it yet because I was busy.
Yeah.
I was busy watching how the Rocky Mountain State was hijacked. But
yeah.
So what was okay? So
What's my thought?
initially you had grave concerns about SCOTUS overturning Colorado. What led you to what has helped white pill you on that grave concern?
Just rereading what I looked at, because I highlighted a bunch of it and I screenshot it, saved it for myself. I
Okay.
woke up the next day, I reread through it, and all the parts about Colorado law, I've skipped over all that because it's not relevant to the discussion for me.
Right, because all we care about is the next
Yeah,
thing.
and does Colorado have the right to do this? Like, have the judge go through? Like, yeah, because if you're challenging election qualifications, you have to have a mechanism of doing it. Because I've been hired to challenge election qualifications in cases before. Like that part all makes sense. I get that. I'm not going to argue with it. I think their argument is like challenging, how people were going to get picked. Like, yeah, they would have the right to do that. I still think there's problems with the idea of, they even say it, had this been anybody else but Donald Trump, we would agree this language is not incitement, which that normally, as if a judge is saying they said the quiet part out loud. You're never supposed to, you admit you've done something wrong as a judge when you're saying, well, just this guy, but otherwise it doesn't apply. Like, then it's not really applying to anybody.
That's a bill of attainder right there.
Well, I think it's a bill of attainder, but I think that is a massive abuse of discretion on top of everything else.
So I didn't
Well, it's not
even get that. I didn't even get that far. I got
Oh.
so bored with their ridiculous takes on it that I didn't even get that far.
Oh.
I lost patience with the Colorado Supreme Court before I think I reached that section where they were talking about the. I mean, I read to part of their Brandenburg assessment.
Yeah.
But
well,
I think as soon as they mentioned Dr. Simi, I was like, I can't.
Well,
if I watched Dr. Simi testify, I
Yes.
saw that arrogant
Yeah.
bastard, this complete bozo, who basically he did say something to that effect. He's like, well, you have to realize he's talking to 3%ers. So, and he's talking to
Yes, I hung out with the extremists.
I hung out. I slept in. I shared Lawgics.
Yes, I
with
was like Jane
the
Goodall.
Oath Keepers, with the
Yeah.
Oath Keepers and the 3%ers and the QAnons and the craziest of the crazies. And they're all racist and they all want to kill every black person ever and every Jew.
Yeah.
And that's what they exist for. And they all want to. They all think that Donald Trump is basically this the son of Jesus, grandson of grandson of the Almighty, and that they're all basically, these crazed hicks who are inbred, and and the selection of their choice of wives depends on how many sisters they have. So yeah, I heard him testify. I heard him say that if Donald Trump says to commit violence, they know that he's totally serious. That if he says it in a joke, he's totally serious. If he says, if he makes reference to something, that is his way of coddling them and saying, wink, wink, I'm definitely on your side.
Yes.
And that if he says anything condemning it, he means literally the opposite of what he's saying. Everyone
not good
knows.
enough. Yeah.
Everyone knows that it's not just not good enough.
Yes.
It's actually part of the code saying I'm using opposite speak now.
Yes. And he didn't when he didn't, but I also had problems with the issues of, well, he was, we're not going to specify these terms we're going to use. It's like no court ever does, like when an appeals court does something, they always specify. And they say, oh, well, we're going to go back to 2016 with him. It's like, wait, how can you're you're claiming he was insurrectionist in 2016? Like, at what point?
Yeah.
And then they state in 2020.
Months before January 6th, he was an insurrectionist.
Yeah. And during 2020, he was an when he wanted to use the military to suppress people, which they say a mob. And also, guys, locals, I'm starting up the locals, but somebody said Joe wanted to talk to me and opened up my Twitter and it was there. So I clicked on it. We'll start up locals in a minute.
You and I have been pushed into like the same camera zone together because someone said to me, Sean wants on. So
that's fine. My plan worked.
There you go.
But no, it was
now you're white pilled. Well, now you're white pilled.
I'm more white pilled now. Yeah. Like the whole idea of like, well, a mob could be insurrectionist. It doesn't have to have a unified plan. Like there has to be unity. I'm like, people were getting ready to take a dump on Nancy Pelosi's desk. What part of that has to do with stopping the vote? There were all those issues, and then the issue of, well, Trump wanted to use the military to put down all the people who were rioting for trying to force political change in 2020. That was bad. But when you use the National Guard, not having them suppress the stuff on January 6th, well, that was bad too. It's like, there's no way he could win with that. And
of course,
I like to think the Supreme Court's going to step in and say, like, I do agree with some people who think this is not just going to be a 5-4 decision. You're going to get, it's going to be like a 7-2 or an 8-1, something like that.
I was saying this could be 9-0.
If it's 9-0, that would be hilarious because now we're gonna hear about like, where's all the court packers now?
I'll tell you something. I fully expect that Chief Justice Roberts is going to twist Kagan, KBJ, and Sotomayor very hard to join the majority. This is what, and here's what I basically this is why the reason I'm very hopeful, very optimistic, very confident that Supreme Court's going to overturn this is not because I have confidence in anyone doing the right thing here.
They're going to do it for the sake of nobody getting murdered.
That's part of it, but I think that I have confidence in them doing the wrong thing, and the wrong thing the wrong thing and living to their nature in doing the wrong thing. What would be living to the nature? Because and I look at the Supreme Court as not two wings, but three, where you have the people on the left, you got the folks on the right, you got three on the left, three on the right, and three who are neocons. So see, we all know the three female lefties. Then you got Alito, Gorsuch, and Thomas on the right, and then you have Coney Barrett, Kavanaugh, and Roberts, who make every decision ultimately because it's 3 against 3, and then you have those three deciding everything. So, and they're the neocons, and they invariably think like neocons, and neocons. So how does a neocon think? A neocon thinks we need strong federal power. Believe in the establishment. Believe in things going the way things have been going. Believe in keeping America as, along the lines of what America is and whatever. Unless, that's essentially what are the folks, what is going to keep America functioning the way it has been. All of these arguments are consistent with saying you can't have what's strong federal power. You know what, states, you don't get to decide. Each of you deciding for yourselves whether or not Section 3 of the 14th Amendment kicks in, because that is too localized, that power. That is far and away not what they want. I think that Amy Coney Barrett and Roberts are going to be saying to themselves, we don't really like the idea of states having that power. We don't like the idea of, and I think that the whole banana republic element, this is the reason I think that they're going to go along in supporting Trump on these and about presidential immunity ultimately, is because I think they're going to say this is just going to change the landscape of what America is going to be forever, because it's happening to Trump today, and in 6 years it's going to happen to Biden. So we're going to see that happening everywhere. So I think they're going to have concerns about that. So I think but I think on this issue, with respect to the 14th Amendment, it's very easy. It's very easy to say no. There's no such thing, and it's just the dissenter. I don't know. Did you read the dissent from Samore?
I did, yes.
So he made some.
His dissent made me feel a little better too.
His dissent was so great, and what he pointed out was this: why did they write this? What was the context? The context was the federal government said, we're very afraid of certain individual states. We just fought against and won in a civil war to say federal power trumps state power. Now we want to codify that in amendments. How are we going to codify that in amendments? One of them is going to be Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, where we're going to say, hey, you know what? Just because the state decides that we want to send a certain senator here, no. We, the federal government, can kick you out of here if you broke your oath in the past and you had someone who swore an oath to the Constitution and then rebelled. We have the power as Congress, the federal government, to do that. Yeah. How the heck you twist that now into being something that states can decide to get rid of a federal guy from a different state, and then we're going to get rid of who's going to be the president of the United States? That's such a twisting on its head of what it obviously was intended to do that it's asinine.
Well, and I agree, because I also, at the time when I was reading through the self-executing argument they were making, I was like, okay, yeah, there's some parts of it are self-executing, but I woke up the next day and said, wait a minute. To argue things are because they said, oh, well, the 13th Amendment's self-executing. I slept on it, and I woke up and I said to myself, listen, you retard, it's not, though. Okay, great. Slavery's gone. Like, even Abraham Lincoln said, slavery's gone. No more slavery anymore. He wrote the Emancipation Proclamation. All the slaves are freed. It took a lot more than that to make it happen.
But
it wasn't self-executing. It had enabling. If I enslave you right now, and I say, Joe, you're mowing my yard forever, and I shackle you up and you're mowing my yard forever.
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you file a motion saying, well, Sean's violating the 13th Amendment? Okay, so what? No, there's a law against doing that. There's a law, there's laws against.
Oh, so you're saying
traffic.
It's not self-executing that?
Yeah, it's not self-executing in that regard, because the court says let him go.
Samora, I think Samora. I don't know how Samora.
His argument's different, but it's also one I had as well, though.
Well, but the argument that he made, which I think is such a great argument, and it really takes every case that they brought and explains how they come to this conclusion, which was basically that when they talk about self-executing, what those of you who are watching, I'm explaining to the audience, those who are watching, so it's basically like if someone engages in this activity, does it automatically kick in that now they fall into this class of people, or is there something that has to happen in order for them to be put into that class of people? And what the majority in the Supreme Court of Colorado said was that no, we think it has to be self-executing, because we see that the 13th, 14th, 15th amendments were all written at the same time for the same general, to affect the same general set of agendas, and so many of them we see are self-executing. And what the dissent pointed out was, yeah, some of it's self-executing. The parts that are helping spread civil liberties, that's self-executing. You don't need to have any further law from Congress saying slavery is abolished. And once you have this law that, yeah, slavery is abolished, there might be certain ways we'll specify it in order to strengthen it and bolster it. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's automatically self-executing without there being any further law. But any parts of those amendments which are not helping spread liberties, but are shackling people, well, then Congress is going to have to write specific laws which explain how that process is going to work when someone is considered that part to fall into that. What yardstick are you going to use? What's the burden of proof? Let's say someone says, I didn't do those steps. Another person says you did. How are we going to adjudicate that? That's something that they say specifically that Congress has to write appropriate legislation. And it doesn't, when they say appropriate legislation, the reason it's such critical language is because they could have said Congress will write legislation. When they say appropriate legislation, it's not saying that they're going to act appropriately when they legislate. It means legislation
tailored,
that is tailored to meet this agenda. That's their job. Congress is the one who's empowered to have that. And why would they give that power to Congress? Because they didn't want to give it to the states, because they didn't trust the freaking states.
Yes.
Do you think, ask yourself this, you just won
yes, we're going to let the state of Alabama decide who committed
You just won the Civil War. Do you think that now it's like that? Do you think that all of a sudden that the state of New York is going to be like, oh yeah, we just saw thousands of our own citizens die trying to free slavery, and we're punishing the South and saying that if you rebelled against us and you were a judge beforehand, you can't go back to being a judge because you already broke the Constitution. If you were a senator, you can't go back to being a senator. And that's why we're writing this amendment. So, and who's going to figure out how this applies? Oh yeah, the state of South Carolina will figure out how that applies.
Yeah. No, I agree.
How insane is that? That's just so asinine.
Yeah, no, I think that's part of the problem there. But I think his argument's really good in that regard. That yes, you know, and the other one though is, and I don't recall him saying this, but there's a case that went in front of the Supreme Court recently. A guy was challenging, he lost his rights to firearms through a protection order hearing, a restraining order hearing. The restraining order hearing is only preponderance of the evidence. It's 51%. That's all it takes to get a restraining order. And you lose a critical constitutional right.
Yeah.
And I was making the argument last night. This is one I thought of, and I haven't seen really people on Twitter talking about it. But to have the right to run for office, it's not specifically. I would argue it is enumerated in the Constitution, because I can't. Well, it's an unenumerated right. Because if I have the right to be a senator, or like right now, I'm over 35, I could be president. Scary thought, I know.
I'm voting for you already. Look, I'll tell you right now. If Trump's not on the ticket, I'm writing you in, brother.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to look forward to it. My reign will be very benevolent. Be like Pinochet and Franco having a baby. It'll be like that. But the idea is, I have the right to run for office.
His helicopter cheers right there. So
yes. So what I think though is, I have the right to run for office, because otherwise, if I'm allowed to be a senator, a representative, or the president, that means that's implying I have, it's an implied right that you have the right to run for office. Well, that's a very massive liberty interest, to take part in the political discourse of your country, just like, voting, or, being able to redress your government's grievances with your government. So if I have that right, I'd argue it's a critical right, because it's mentioned.
A First Amendment right.
Well, it's not only a First Amendment right, but it's a right that's embedded in Article 1. It's embedded in Article 2. Those are critical rights there. And if I have that right to do it, to strip that right from me, you need more than just preponderance of the evidence with a 51%, or clear and convincing. You could argue clear and convincing is a little bit more. It's kind of up there, a little higher. It's still not high.
Convincing means, but.
Yeah,
all we know is it's somewhere between 51% and the 98%, but we don't know whether it's at 90% or 54%.
I like to say it's like 60% or something like that. You're kind of probably standard, but it's not beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
And and I think that's the problem. You're stripping a man of their right to run for office with, because that's one of the issues when you become a felon. You can't vote, you can't run for office.
Mhm.
Well, we only take those rights away beyond a reasonable doubt. And this one was, Judge Karen, and then all the insurrection scholars. Which that's what I loved about this. There's so much. That's what they talk about at the at Christmas here. What do you do, Bob? I'm an insurrection scholar. I talk about insurrections. How long have you been doing it? Oh, like 6 months. But I'm the leader in my field.
Yeah. Nobody was a scholar in this.
Yes,
on
I'm
January 1st, 2021.
Yes,
Zero people were scholars.
I'm a
at that point.
boogologist.
Yeah,
I'm a professor, the professor emeritus of Boogaloo studies. I hold the Timothy McVeigh chair of extremism studies.
Did you see that guy who they were citing, Magliacca?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of people they cited.
Yeah, but
and the one guy's article has.
literally, did you see him?
No, I didn't see him. I'm assuming
I watched him testify.
I listened to it. I didn't hear it or watch it.
Yeah, no, I'll share with you here so you can get a feel for this scholar. this scholar. That's him.
Yes,
right there.
What the guy, the bald guy?
The bald guy.
Yes. I'm serious. It's all insurrection.
No, he doesn't sound like that, but he sounds like Nosferatu. Oh my god.
Well,
it's freaky. This guy with these deep set eyes. When he came out, I was like,
I'm not gonna lie. If it's like, hello, extremists, may I hang out with you? I'd have been like, get away from me, Fed. But there's that guy, and it's just like the one guy's article hadn't even been actually published yet, so it's not even peer reviewed,
right?
A critique. So to argue I've had some time to kind of step off the ledge, but I still am willing to eat my hat. I'm hoping I get to eat my hat.
I'm telling you right now, I'm not. It's not because I think that they're going to have an interest in applying the right law. It's because I think their own self-interest of their own power of saying I'm not letting some stupid district court judge decide who's going to be running for
it's not even
president.
a district court judge. It's some
Colorado state judge.
Yeah, some state judge in bumfuck Colorado. Yeah, it's like you're just above the parking ticket judge.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, you know when she was appointed? You know when she started her job?
Wasn't it?
Yeah, January 2023. She's got like all of like 6 cases under her belt.
Which I do feel bad for her in that regard. It's like you just started the job and that's your first.
I don't feel bad for her because she refused to recuse herself.
Well, that part, that's on her. But
yeah. And here's something else which I pointed out in one of my tweets late this evening, which was like, why would you come and say, well, you can't. It does this amendment. My interpretation of the statute is this amendment doesn't apply. But P.S. This was an insurrection, and he engaged in insurrection. Once you reach the first part that you say it doesn't apply, why are you reaching a determination on the second part? Unless you're playing into the partisan games of I want all these headlines to go out there saying court determines that Trump engages in insurrection. So that's the only reason she actually finished that part of the whole thing. Really, once she's doing her analysis and says, well, it doesn't apply to president, so whether or not he engaged in insurrection, that's irrelevant.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's almost like saying, well, Kyle Rittenhouse didn't commit, he's not guilty of murder, but he used a firearm in the commission of these offenses. It's like, no, you can't use that, and that's actually a good point. I didn't even thought that far yet. I've been worried about real stuff too in the meantime, but I've had a chance to I don't know, step off the cliff, but I'm willing. Like you said, you're willing to bet. It's like we'll have to come up with something.
All right. Pete Fuss says, how about deep dive into the phrase we all grew up on? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. I don't think we need a deep dive. We just know that people today are soft, so that's why that's why it's considered a microaggression.
Although I'd say, Joe, I got to get going. So I got to
go ahead, brother.
Over at potentiallycriminal.locals.com. But I did want to say the one.
Are you whatchamacallit? Are you streaming on YouTube now?
I just finished. I finished my show already, so I'm over here. Yeah, we're not doing that thing like last time where I was muted and unmuted and.
No, I was going to kick him over to you.
Oh no, I'm already done. Okay. So we get to hang out there, guys. We can talk about all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I think SCOTUS
potentially criminal, my man.
Yeah, I think SCOTUS is going to also do this to avoid people from shooting each other because that's a very real possibility. But I did want to say,
I'm very afraid. I'm very afraid of the ramifications. And the first thing I did when this decision came out, first thing I said was, please, 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 please do not engage in violence.
Yes,
please,
do not. That's what they want right now.
Yes, that is exactly what they want. To say, you see, we need to clamp down because they're all violent, and as soon as they lose, they're gonna bring out the guns. That's what they want to say. And I was like, it'll be bad for those people, for those of us who support these interests, and it'll be much worse for you individually. It's not going to accomplish anything. It's just going to make things much worse. So please make sure that you
and the other thing, so the other thing I was going to say is, once this happens and the Supreme Court does overturn it, and let's say they do it 9-0, Jack Smith's case is pretty much poof.
But if they do it on this one,
I think so, because they're going to be like, because if they get to the point of saying this wasn't an insurrection, this is absolute nonsense.
I don't think they'll go that far.
Well,
I don't think they'll go that far.
I think they might. I think they might. They might answer. They might. I think there's enough of an issue to address how Section 14 or Section 3 article of Section 3.
There might be a concurrence. There might be a concurrence from like Thomas and Alito.
If a couple of them tip their hand, that pretty much kills Jack Smith right there.
Of enough of them, I guess. Yeah.
If there's enough concurrences, and they go, oh yeah, by the way, when this comes to us, I'm totally nuking it.
Yeah, that's a fair point that I hadn't considered. I just don't think that. I think they're not going to bother reaching that part of it. I think they'll cut it out on the issues with the third.
The oral arguments are going to be epic in that regard.
I'm really looking forward to the oral arguments. I'm even the arguments about whether or not they should be jumping ahead on the presidential immunity question and bypassing the appellate court. I was reading that yesterday on air, and I was like, Trump's team writes some pretty good bases here as to how it's ridiculous to bypass the appellate court here. So if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend
Leontardo, my point is, the judges, through their questioning, are going to talk about the insurrection issues and how Trump was acting, and was he enraging the mob? Because if they determine that's not a crime and what he did wasn't illegal, all the preamble of Jack Smith's massive indictment and how Trump was assaulting democracy and he's undermining it in the Electoral College Act, a lot of that's going to be in peril, because that's Supreme Court signaling, no, we're not buying what you're selling. And they might telegraph that ahead of time, is what I'm trying to argue. You can use your questions to signal to other people what you're thinking on other cases.
That's true.
You're not supposed to do that, but I have the feeling like Clarence Thomas and some of these judges are kind of tired of the bullshit.
No. Right.
So that's why
I'm
saying that.
Shade Chaser sent me a rant saying, "Giving my pennies to Joe since Sean abandoned his locals after show."
Oh, I'm not abandoning you guys. I'm starting it now. So,
all right, and Rackets is live, so I'm going to kick you guys over to him and Ty Beard, who are over there. The last super chat I got over here is, I got one or two left here. Manville says, I was in Colorado for this. Thing about teaching idiots was spot on. Idiots are easier to manipulate, votes count the same. The Democratic voters I talked to, they never read anything past the headline. I think that's totally true. I think it's true of a lot of Republicans too, to be honest. It's not true. My audience, they care, they enjoy the deep dives, but you guys are not the norm. So I'm not trying to cater to idiots. My agenda, I actually assume that people who are idiots are not going to stay here for more than 2 shows of mine. It was in Trump's best interest that the count happened. That's
yes.
Yeah. And what do you think of improper appointment amicus?
Which improper appointment? I'm
not sure what Peter is referring to here.
Yeah. I do know that a couple of there was an amicus filed today that was like former U.S. Attorney Edwin Meese.
He doesn't. It's like it's not the White House anybody. He just doesn't have any law on his side. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, what are they? Well, they're saying they're not in support of anyone. That's a weird one, because you're saying I'm not taking anyone's side. It's like, then why are you filing a brief? I haven't read it yet, so I don't know.
Improper appointments?
Yeah. I don't know.
What case is that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my point to you, Robin, was anything about phone records, anything that's in the phone records that you're assuming that there's something really juicy in there, and these really, really juicy, we got him now, boys. invariably every single time has been a massive nothing burger, like his tax returns.
Mhm.
Big massive nothing burger. Like, we got his tax returns, we got his phone records,
Yes.
and it's invariably a nothing burger. But even if it's not a nothing burger, the problem is not your issue of facts. The problem is your issue of law, because you got no freaking law here. That's the problem you're having.
Is what he did illegal? That's the critical thing, and
The
the Supreme
presidential
Court may
immunity
say it's
thing.
not.
If he's immune, it doesn't
Yeah.
even matter if he would have screamed. If he's
Yeah.
actually immune, if he would have screamed, go in there and kill them, that he still would be not liable.
Yes.
That's just the way the law works.
Mm-hmm.
The judge overseeing the Proud Boys trial, and I don't think he did anything remotely like that. I think that I think that he'll win on factual basis too, but he doesn't need factual basis. And if he wins on the Supreme Court level, it's not going to be on the factual basis; it's going to be on the law. So, and Smith has to get to a trial in order for any facts he has to be relevant. And I don't think he's getting anywhere close to a trial. Judge overseeing the Proud Boys trial correlated President Trump and PBs using
the Proud Boys
using a specific date to add insurrection with both Proud Boys and
the trial where the FBI had their informants interacting with the defense team. Yeah, that trial.
All right, that's my show. Tomorrow I'm gonna be on Laidback News at noon, and I'll be back here. I hope you all have a phenomenal weekend. I thank you, Sean, for joining me and closing out my week strong here. And God willing, I will be back here on Saturday night. I hope you all have a phenomenal weekend. I'm kicking you all on over to Nick Rekieta. Those of you who aren't like big such Rekieta things, go hang out with him in locals. Or even if you are, go hang with him locals and catch Nick later. Do whatever you want. Or you can actually, I don't know, go outside and play baseball. Do whatever the heck you want. You're living whatever part of the world you are. I don't assume you're in America. For all I know, you're like you're in Indochina. I don't know where you are. Wherever you are, I hope you have a phenomenal weekend. And the most important thing that you should remember is that you need to stay happy, eat the bugs. Godspeed.